Let's bring in Vinoo Varghese, Harvard Law School teaching faculty, white-collar criminal defense attorney, and former prosecutor. Vinoo, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Opening statements, as we just heard, are scheduled for August 11th. Was this weird asking for that delay now? What does that indicate to you?
Look, as a general rule for a defendant, the longer a case takes, the better it is. And what that means is that the difference or the time delay between the arrest or the incident and the time you get to trial generally favors the defendant because, memories fade, and there could be witnesses who aren't available anymore. So there's certainly a reason for the defense to seek an extension. Here, the reason they cited was the media leaks and things. I don't think that's going to be a basis because you can certainly inquire of the jury. I'm not sure how many people watch Dateline NBC anymore. I don't know the ratings. Maybe it's still very popular, but I bet you can find some jurors in Boise, Idaho who don't watch it.
All right, Vinoo, let's talk about the intense public scrutiny threatens his right to a fair trial. That's what his defense team said. What is that exactly?
I think that's accurate, but the reality is you have to deal with it. And so, that alone isn't going to be a basis for a delay. It actually was a basis to move the case for a larger jury pool from his smaller town in Moscow to a larger jury pool in Boise. So, they've already benefited from it to some extent. So actually probably to a large extent. So therefore, it's a good argument, but it's probably that's not going to stop the trial from starting.
Vinoo, let's talk about that new development with a female unidentified DoorDash driver now claiming to have seen Kohberger at the scene and saying she will testify at the trial. Could this be a huge game changer?
It could be. I would imagine that the woman who says she's that DoorDash driver is probably the DoorDash driver. The issue for her is her credibility because she brought it up in body cam footage while she was getting arrested for driving under the influence. So, she probably was that person because who would make something up like that unless it got out to the media that there was a DoorDash driver. But that can easily be verified. The issue is, how credible a witness would she be? Because, if she's driving under the influence or allegedly driving under the influence, maybe she was driving under the influence when she delivered DoorDash that morning to the crime scene a few minutes before these people were killed.
Yeah. Well, part two of yesterday's hearing was completely private, and it was scheduled for the defense's plan to present a theory that was there. It was a, quote, alternate perpetrator. That was the quote. Walk us through this theory.
Yeah, look, if there is enough evidence of an alternate perpetrator, the defense is going to have to demonstrate that somehow. Now, this is unusual because the defense should be able to make a decision about whether it presents a case. Remember, the burden of proof is on the government. Mr. Kohberger, like every defendant in America, has no burden to present evidence. Though in a case like this, with all this evidence, you are going to have to somehow present a case. Otherwise, you stand no shot. So I imagine there were some discovery deadlines for the defense to provide the prosecution, and maybe what's called hard evidence, some data, things like that must be turned over. And so the prosecution probably moved to preclude them. The defense is trying to keep their case alive, or the potential case alive.
All right, from one big national case, Karen Reed, to another potential big one following this trial with jury selection slated to start in late July. Vinoo Varghese, always appreciate your insight. Thank you.
My pleasure.